Hi, everyone. We're connected. We're live, right? Yeah. Can you hear me, Dr. Jeff, Ben?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone that is connecting into our webinar for today on what is a miracle. Over here, we have Dr. Jeff and Ben and myself, Mariana. Dr. Jeff is our Chief Medical Officer at Rythmia. He has a master's in public health and has been in the healthcare for over 30 years. He teaches a very cool class on Thursdays that if you have been here before, you know that it's like a very important class for the week. And Ben is our meditation teacher, spiritual leader, and is the host of the Modern Spirituality Show. And now he's our integration coach, so a very important part of our team as well. And he's going to be our guest speaker on this upcoming 22nd, right? On the week of the 22nd. So September, yes. Mm-hmm. So welcome you both. Thank you for being here. And my name is Mariana. I am the holistic manager here at Rythmia. I am a medical doctor, but now I'm overseeing the classes of yoga, meditation, dance of liberation, and breath work that work very by the side of the medicine. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, let's just give a head start. So today's webinar is about the miracles, right? This is a big thing that when people are coming to Rythmia, they see like people that come here to Rythmia, they have a miracle, right? And here at Rythmia, we collect a lot of data on people that, you know, go through this process. And when they go back home or when they're leaving, one of the questions that we ask is, did you get your miracle, right? And right now we have a percentage of over 98% that have their miracle during their stay here. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what is this miracle? Because it can be very different for everyone. So can you jump into that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know. Well, this is the thing. Ben explains this like the best I've ever heard anyone explain it. So I want to set up Ben in a way that he can like nail it, if that's okay.
For sure. Thank you.
But what I want to say about the miracle is, you know, like it's all over like our media, you know, and all over our website and our Facebook page, Instagram's like a miracle and get your miracle. And we have t-shirts. I got my miracle, you know, for fun. And there's this talk of miracles at Rythmia. And what we're referring to are the intentions that we teach people. And if those intentions were realized, and what those intentions, we'll get into them, what they talk about is a soul merger, and that someone is connected to themselves in an authentic way that was often lost when they were children and had a traumatic moment or a traumatic theme, and they dissociate and split from themselves. So a miracle is really connecting back with the self and having a soul merger, and then having a different perspective on life and having a million different things possibly happen that are all wonderful experiences and things that are helpful for the individual. So a miracle is something that you'll hear a lot at Rythmia. You'll see it everywhere, and people are talking about it. Did you get yours? I got mine. Did you get, you know, that kind of talk. And it's really exciting and it's really profound. And for me, it's something that the whole program is centered around. It's helping the individual connect with the self.
Yeah,
so there you go. That. There's the T.
Yeah, I love that. There's the T. And we're off. Yeah, I love the setup there because and I'm so grateful that we're doing this webinar, because one of the first things that I noticed when I came here in 2016 was that very small marquee at the front desk in the restaurant, in the conference room. Luckily not in the Maloka, but in a couple places around Rythmia, I was seeing this scrolling marquee that said the current miracle percentage rate. And it was one of the first things I noticed when I got here, like Jeff was saying, it's all over the place, really pervasive. And for me, I have to admit to you, I was like, that's the corniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Cheesy.
I was like, oh, so Miracle Stock Exchange. So I immediately thought it was super cheesy. I was like, miracle, what? And then I actually got my miracle, you know? And so that's something that we hear about too, is like we kind of hear people making jokes at it or laughing about it. And it's something we laugh about too. And then something does change. You're not laughing about it in the same way once you do have your experience. So the thing that is so important to say about this miracle rate is what it really, really means, I think. And what it really, really means is that over 98% of every single person who's come here and done the program self-reported that they got a miracle. And so we're going to discuss what a miracle means. We talked about it a little bit. You teed it up, but there's this bigger, really, really interesting thing for all of you to like just let land is that 98% of people self-report, you know what, I actually got a miracle this week, you know. So that's a really big deal.
And a lot of the protocols and the policies that we have at Rythmia are based on the guest experience and what they've told us as feedback, because we have an exit survey that everybody fills out that goes into detail about their whole experience for the week. And our program is a week-long program. And so when it's fresh in their minds, when they're leaving and checking out on the weekend, they get to write down all the things that they experienced. And we take all of that data very seriously. And we've fine-tuned and honed the program over the last almost 8 years to be client-centered. And that's always an important concept, is that it's a client-centered program that helps the individual get what they need. And the miracle is a part of that questioning, is that did you achieve that this week? And 98% or more, a little bit more, say that they did out of almost 17,000 people that we've worked with since our opening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's actually pretty amazing that, you know, like so many people come through it. And yes, at the beginning, it's like we've had, you know, people say even like at the end of the week, like when I came here, I felt that it was very cheesy, and then like I got my miracle. So yeah, it's definitely something, because again, like the miracle can be so different for everyone, right? So Dr. Jeff, you were talking about the 3 intentions and the soul merger. Can you go a little deeper on that? Maybe focus on, like, because we have the 3 main intentions. So just tell us a little bit from where we bring those 3 intentions and how they connect with this, like having this miracle.
Good. So, you know, everybody that comes to Rythmia has a reason for coming, and they have their own intentions and all these different hopes and desires and clarity points that they'd like to achieve. And we're always in favor of that being something people work on. However, what we do is we teach everybody in the classes day 1 these 3 intentions. And we believe that if you follow the 3 intentions in the ayahuasca sessions and in the breath work and in all the class modalities that we have, we believe that if you follow those 3, then all of your more individual-based intentions will be realized and they'll be met. Mm-hmm. So the first intention.
Can I say one more thing about them before you get into it?
Please
do. Another thing that I think is so cool about the intentions is something that's been true for me through my own experience with a ton of ayahuasca, tons and tons of ayahuasca, is that the 3 intentions that we present that you're about to go over are the shamans often say that these 3 intentions are what the medicine's intention are for you. It's the medicine's intention for us when we go to have the medicine. And it also encompasses all other intentions. Something that I think is really interesting is we all come to ayahuasca for a reason, like you just said, Jeff. And that reason doesn't leave your mind. It doesn't leave your unconscious mind. That need doesn't leave your heart. That's still in your heart when you come here. And what we do is we connect you in through these 3 intentions. And so sometimes people say, well, I already have my own intentions. Well, that's why I think it's important to look at that reality where this is the medicine's intention for you. So it's sort of like an exchange. You want what you want from the medicine. You're called to the medicine for the reasons you are. Well, the medicine is going to take you there, but through this process.
Exactly. Yeah, very well said. And when we refer to the medicine, we're referring to the plant-based medicine, which we call and use here at Rythmia as ayahuasca, from the Amazon basin of South America. And it's an indigenous plant, 2 indigenous plants blended together that help people have an experience that connects them to themselves and helps them overcome anxiety and depression and trauma and all kinds of different personal issues, gives them clarity. So that's what we mean when we're referring to this, the medicine. That's what that is. So the first intention that we teach people is show me who I've become. And I know Ben and I in previous webinars have gone into this a little bit, but and maybe we can take turns talking about the intentions. But the first one is really important because we believe, and not just Rythmia, but psychiatry and psychology, and my background in psychology as a doctorate level person, we believe here at Rythmia that everybody goes through a traumatic moment when they're a kid, or a traumatic themed upbringing when they're a kid. And what do I mean by a kid? I mean, usually between the ages of 2 and 7 years old, there's some sort of event that occurs or a theme that you learn that it is unsafe to be you. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you are authentically you and you're 4 years old or 5 years old, what is most 4 or 5 year olds like? Full of love, peaceful, happy, curious, inquisitive, and want to know everything about the world, ask a million questions. I have a 5-year-old and a newborn right now, and they ask me a million, not my newborn, but my 5-year-old asks me a million questions all the time. Daddy, why this, that, But what happens if that 5-year-old is neglected or abused or abandoned? Then that child believes that the only way I can get my needs met is to change into something else and maybe draw more attention to myself, or maybe become very quiet and silent and invisible, or maybe, act out and get sort of notoriety in a way that at least I can get my needs met by the teachers or something. So you start to show the world something behaviorally that isn't authentically you. And there's a dissociative split that occurs between your true self and what you're showing the world. And that's called dissociation. And there's a lot of psychological conditions that are based on dissociative disorders. Now, as your life progresses and you've shown the world something that's not really you, it gains momentum and it snowballs. And eventually you're no longer 5 or 6 or 7 years old. You're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and you are completely disconnected from the true you. Nobody really knows who you are. You don't even know who you are. You might have a hint or a thought, a fleeting thought once in a while, but it's too foreign to really go there. And you just continue this momentum of this persona that's not really you. And because you're disconnected and dissociated from the true self, all kinds of influences come in and throw you off even more. There's addiction, there's mental health issues, there's control by different industries, and there's all kinds of just opportunities for you to be thrown off track because you're not grounded in who you are as a person. You're unplugged and disconnected. So the first intention that we teach is show me who I've become. I want to know what I'm showing the world that's not authentically myself. I want to see what that is. And that's the first thing we teach people on this road to getting the miracle.
I think that one of the things that's so important about the nuance of that first intention is that it's not show me who I am. It's show me who I have become. So we know that, just like you were saying, the 5-year-old, creative, full of love, that's who we really are. That's like the core essence of who you really are. And there's like the distortions and the mistaken beliefs and perspectives and trauma splits and themes that then like filter the way we present out into the world. And so, we end up becoming something else. So that first thing, I think it's really interesting the way the medicine starts to hit the brain too, because when it first comes on, DMT that goes in through the brain, it loves connection, right? It's all about everything being connected to each other. Mm-hmm. And that makes real efficient energy movement through the brain. All those neural pathways become a little more efficient moving through the whole brain because the DMT wants everything to be connected. So it opens up all these ways to make it all more efficient. And then the thinking starts to become really clear and really intelligent, because logical, clear, rational thinking actually is really efficient thinking. And so all of a sudden you have all these realizations like, oh, I've been operating in all these dysfunctional ways. And so it sort of has that there is like a scientific like reality to that first intention of showing who I've become.
That's right.
So there's like a spiritual, psychological, but also a physical part.
Just today, one of the guests told me that they had last night, they had gotten this intention met, and on a Wednesday night, today's Thursday. And they said, I didn't know what you meant by this, show me who I've become, but I've realized that I've become a bitter, angry, vengeful, spiteful person. I'm like, why do you think that is? And they said, because when I was 6 years old, my mom died and my dad took care of me, and he didn't know how to do it. And he was overwhelmed, and he was young himself. And I felt completely abandoned. And I was angry at I don't know who or what, but I was just angry. And it stems from that time. So that particular guest just became this angry, upset person. And that's not who they are. It's not at all who they are. Who they really are is a loving, deeply connected, very empathic, very smart, interesting person. But that all got overshadowed by this deep down anger that stems from childhood. So that's an example of like, perfect. Show me who I've become.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And basically, what the medicine is doing is taking, back there and just bringing what we really are, this authenticity that we have. So that's with the first intention. Then we have the second, that is merge me back with my soul at all costs. And the third, that is heal my heart. Right. And then those go deeper, within, and yeah. Can you like say a little bit of how, talk a little bit about that. And then also, how this can be seen as a miracle, or connected to the miracle.
Definitely. So show me who I've become is that first intention. And usually I'd say you'd get it first. I would say.
Yeah, it goes in order, generally speaking.
Yeah. And then that second one that comes in is merge me back with my soul at all costs. Well, that split that Dr. Jeff was talking about is a really good point to reflect on and become aware of, because before that is when you were already merged, when you were already connected to yourself. That split, that disassociation, where we show the world something else in order to get our needs met, we start to perform something else. We take a step away from ourselves. We start to abandon ourselves. And so that's the second intention, is to reclaim that. And this intention a lot of times does actually involve some level of inner child work. A lot of times people will have visions or memories of certain events. Like you were saying, the guest who was 6 years old who had a split at that time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens with the merging of the soul, that's where, you become back, like you're saying, back connected to the true self authentically, because a lot of people are hypervigilant and disconnected because they don't feel safe connecting. Because when you're connected, that means that you're just really present with yourself. And if you became split because you were under attack or there was trauma, you've become comfortable dissociated and unplugged, because in a disconnected space, you're very aware of people and things around you. And that's a place you become comfortable. And so to come back to the self and connect, there's often resistance to that, because if I'm plugged into myself, then I'm just with me and I'm not aware of everything around me at the time. And it seems like it's scary, but you got to build confidence in that position, because that's a position of true authenticity for self, and being grounded in yourself and feeling your own emotions and having your own thoughts and knowing what's right for you only gives comfort. Because when you're disconnected from self, you're making bad decisions. You're uncertain of what to do. You're second guessing everything that you're trying to do. And so when you're truly connected to self and plugged in with that second intention, that's where you're really you. And that's where you can heal the wounds from the past that are based in the third intention.
Right. And merging back with the soul is also about being really, really honest with ourselves about who we really are and what we really need and want from our lives. So we find a lot of times people realize when they've merged with their souls that they're living totally disconnected from what their heart's passion is, and they're living totally out of integrity. You can see how all the intentions flow right into each other.
Yeah. I met a guy in LA last week who it was funny because he's like, "What a minute, you're Dr. Jeff from Rythmia?" I'm like, yeah. I met this dude at a storage facility where I was storing some stuff right in LA. And he's like, "Man, I've been watching your guys' videos," and just some random dude. He managed the place. And he said, "My whole life, I wanted to be someone that counseled and helped people. But in my neighborhood, in my community, in my family, that wasn't okay. And so I became like this business guy. And now I run a bunch of these storage unit places, and it feels empty. And I don't want to do it anymore. I want to actually be myself and do what I wanted to do since I was a kid." I said, "Well, it's never too late. You can always do that. You should come down to Rythmia and get connected to like who you really are. And it's just this exciting vibe, because that's the miracle. It's like really connecting with yourself. I asked Jerry, by the way, Jerry's our CEO. He's the founder of Rythmia. He's the guy that had all these experiences that worked for him and turned him around. And so because of him, we have this program here, and it's based on his experiences and what he went through and how it works for a lot of different people all over the world. And I asked him today, I said, hey man, what do you define a miracle as? And he said, soul merger. It's connecting back with the self and healing the past trauma. He said, but also it has to do with anything that you deal with that gives you a new perspective on life. Also, seeing something that you've realized is a beautiful part of the world, but you've never really appreciated it. He said, like a bird flying over, like that's a miracle. Like just it's really personal, that part of it. But at Rythmia, we believe that there's really not a closed-ended definition for this. It's more about like what works for you. What do you feel is a miracle? And we have our sort of parameters we can explain and sort of help guide you there. But really, it's a personal thing that comes down to a soul merger with healing involved, and then your new perspective on life and how you see things. So the beauty of that soul merger is that it tees you up for the next part, which is heal my heart. And that's the third one in this line of three.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned Jerry's story, and Jerry's story follows this intention process. And so the very first class, one of the very first classes that you take when you get here is called About Your Miracle. And that class it presents Jerry Powell's first experience with plant medicine. And you're a co-star in that story.
I was there supporting him as his therapist. So like through that whole chaotic process, it was wild.
Yeah. And one of the things that he actually experienced is, first of all, he saw who he had become. He merged back with his soul, and he was given a new heart. And so this third and part of the intention, Heal My Heart, is very, very personal. And there's an infinite number of different ways that people can get it. Sometimes people just feel so loved by everything in the universe. They feel loved and appreciated. I remember when I had my Heal My Heart moment, my first experience of like, oh, I got that intention when I was here. It was realizing I was sitting there and I was so sweaty and exhausted. I was in ceremony and I had been throwing up and it was terrible and I felt terrible. And there was this moment where I was like in the middle of purging. And so some people from the medicine team came over to fan me and put tissues in my hand, but I didn't want them there yet. I was like, give me space. And then a few minutes later, I did want them there. And they weren't there because I told them to give me space. And in that moment, I went into this like spiral of despair, like, oh, nobody loves me. Nobody's ever loved me. I'm one of 5 kids. I was always thrown to the side. And I realized, oh, that's who I become. That's where my split was. And I was like,
parallel process.
Yeah. And I was like, I love you, little Ben. I love you. And I had my heart healing, and it was just me feeling like I can love myself. I'm worthy of love. And it's okay. Even though I don't feel loved by someone else, because I feel abandoned in this moment in ceremony, even though, which I really wasn't, because I told them to leave me alone. And then in that moment, a breeze came in, and the breeze was my miracle. It was like, just like Jerry mentioned to you, it could be seeing something differently, seeing in a different way, like a bird flying by. For me, that breeze coming in was like the universe loved me. Mm. And it's interesting to say,
it felt
like
good
that
on your skin, the breeze.
Yeah.
It cooled you down. Mm-hmm. It gave you like a breath of fresh air. Mm-hmm. Like that's exactly what you needed in that moment, it sounds like.
And then I just knew, oh, there was my miracle. I felt
That's awesome.
It was like an inner effervescence. And that was my heart healing.
That's super cool. What comes to mind when you tell that story which is an amazing story, is that I was psychodynamically trained in graduate school. And so what that means for psychology, it means that anything happening in a clinical setting is clinically relevant. Everything.
Yeah.
If you trip and stub your toe while you're in treatment or in therapy, that there's something relevant to that. And everything is looked at like that in a psychodynamic framework. And that is the framework that we have at Rythmia, is that there's a parallel process going on for you, no matter what's going on here at Rythmia. Like, oh, well, there's no more food left, which never happens, but there's no more food left. Who cares? It's like, that's interesting. Tell me about your family dynamic back home. And sure enough, there's a connection. Or I'm in the ceremonies team, and I'm in the Maloka receiving ayahuasca in the nighttime, and like, Ben, I raised my hand for help and no one came. Like, okay, well, what's going on in your life outside of that, right? So like, there's always relevant, as we call a parallel process happening that's super therapeutically driven. Mm-hmm. And when people get a little nervous and they think like, I want to run, because you go into fight or flight mode sometimes, like, I want to leave, I want to check out early. We always bring it back to, okay, well, that's what you usually do in your life. Let's change that, and let's look at something different now. Let's try to go down a different road. Instead of running, let's like face it, right? So there's a lot of that, and that requires a great deal of support that we have here. Mm-hmm. So that part that you're explaining about like the healing is really key. That's the final part of the miracle.
Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about the different kinds of miracles that you can have arrhythmia, the one main one we're talking about, we sometimes call like the Trinity, that 3-part process of the soul merger and healing the heart. But there are also other things, right? And the other one that I think that we should talk about is the perspective shift.
Yeah, big time.
There's a really good, I think it's an Albert Einstein quote. There's 2 ways to look at the world. One, that everything is a miracle, and one that nothing is.
Yeah.
And there's a course. Have you read A Course in Miracles?
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
I have.
So it's a really famous book.
Yeah.
And the definition of a miracle in A Course in Miracles, I think it's super interesting. They say that A Course in Miracles says that it always looks like there's a million different miracles that need to happen, but there's only one that needs to happen. A Course in Miracles says every problem can be solved by one miracle, and it's the same miracle every time. And it's a shift in perspective, from a perspective based in fear to a perspective based in love. And I would say we see that definition play out constantly.
Constantly.
And it's people having shifts in perspectives, like boom, 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 boom. And what that really means is it's not something as little, it's not something that sounds little. We're saying it, shift in perspective sounds like not a big deal, like it's not special, like it's a consolation prize.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's your entire universe changing. There's that other expression that says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. If we're in this environment and I am different, I become something different, then the whole environment changes because I'm different now, And so the perspective shifts, people will come into ceremony and they will have entire realizations about their own past. They'll forgive themselves. Forgiveness, I think, is a huge part of the perspective shift.
No question. I had a couple in my office today. They came with their family. There's 3 of them. And the couple was in my office and they were crying and sad, but happy, and both all at the same time. Because the husband said to me in the session, he said, for the last 6 years, I've been overwhelmed and been difficult with my wife. And I see now why, like, I was this way, and she understands. And there's this love and this new empathy, and I'm releasing all this pent up trauma, and I'm crying, and she was crying. It was just the most amazing experience. And I thought to myself, that was their miracle, like connecting as a couple, because they've had this turmoil for the last 6 years that was like sort of misunderstood. They didn't know why they were going at each other's throats. And I thought to myself during that session today, I'm thinking like, wow, that happened in a week here. Not even a week. It happened in 4.5 days. It happened here. That would normally take 10 years of therapy to happen, at least. Because when I was in Los Angeles, I would do couples therapy, and couples therapy is really hard. It's very difficult because you got 2 people and you're trying to connect. It's really hard. And the couples work that we've seen here is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, it is incredible because of the connection that each individual has with self, and then able to connect with the other. So I see that every day here, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, think about the things in your life that are really stressful. There's that Ram Dass quote, if you think you're enlightened, go home for Thanksgiving. So imagine going home for Thanksgiving, imagine going home
Ram
for
Dass
Thanksgiving.
is the best.
Yeah, I know. He's so cool. He's in our documentary, Reality of
Yeah.
Truth. Imagine going home for Thanksgiving, okay? There's a lot of really beautiful parts of that memory and those memories, and there's a lot of beautiful things that can happen there. So I don't want to discount those wonderful things, gratitude, coming together with family, all that. So beautiful, great. Right, and that's not all that happens, right? So there's more going on.
Well, in the rehab world of addiction, everybody says, when you're inpatient in a rehab, we're never going to let anybody discharge out during those holidays. and we're going to keep you inpatient because you will relapse when you go home for those things. So if you're inpatient, we're extending you.
Yeah.
That's so crazy, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because you will be triggered. There's a heightened expectation, and there's expectation hangovers all over the place. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing's, it triggers perfectionism. There's a lot of pressure that society places on everyone to do it all perfectly. Things end up costing a lot of money. Shit goes crazy, right? So imagine all that stress at the holidays that you come up to. And imagine that you could enter into, maybe even pull up one of those really chaotic, stressful memories. I've got one of my mom, no offense, sorry, Mom. I've got one of my mom like just yelling at us, and it's so we can have a nice Thanksgiving. And we're just getting screamed at. And imagine being able to be in that moment and not need things to be perfect. And imagine if my mom in that moment was able to love the fact that we were all there, that we were all okay, that things were as good as they were, that it didn't need to be perfect. And imagine if she had that shift in that moment would transform completely. It would be a loving memory. It would be a gentle memory. It would be soft. All the whole energy that comes from that would be different. And that's the perspective shift we're talking about.
Absolutely. And I love that perspective shift as a miracle. And just noticing things in nature that are a miracle, something personal, and then having the soul merger as a miracle and getting those three intentions met. All of that is what we're talking about at Rythmia. About right. Did you get your miracle? It's about that. It covers a lot of stuff. It's a big, broad base.
Yeah, it's definitely very big. But again, it's so different for everyone. And at the end, also, it's about this feeling. It's like, yes, the soul merger, the change in perspective and all this. And like people can talk about it and it's like, okay, maybe I had this. But when you know that you've had it, it's because you feel it. It's like so intense in your body. And like, it's like these connections in your brain just going like, okay, this is it. Like it doesn't, like, you don't even like second guess it. It's just very in your body and your mind. It's just like a very intense connection.
I think a lot of people these days need a miracle to happen in their life because there's a lot of difficulty. There always has been a lot of difficulty in the world. That's what humanity is about. It's about going through difficulty, overcoming adversity, and over, achieving and learning, right? So, but right now, the information available to the world, to all of us, is overwhelming. You can see what's happening on the other side of the planet in a second, and that's created this high level of stress for people, sadness, worry, guilt, shame, all kinds of problems are unique to this era of the world. The kids, the teenagers and the young adults, they're going through a ton of difficult stuff right now. Like they all have social anxiety disorder for some reason. Like everybody in their 20s has social anxiety disorder, and they don't have the confidence, and there's all this stuff happening. Now there's exceptions. Not everybody's that way, but generally speaking, there's a lot going on right now in the world, and Rythmia is an oasis for people to come and plug in and get recharged and get refocused and go back in and battle the world and find that balance where you're making an impact that's positive.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also very important to talk about how it's not only like the ceremonies that, the plant is the main thing. Of course, it's like what is helping us. It's this catalyzer or like this bridge for us to do like this healing. But the program that we have here, like the miracle can happen at any time. It can happen during ceremony. That's where it usually happens. But it can also happen in breath work, like every week. Like we've seen people at the end, maybe because again, like there's medicine for so many for everyone, and also they're working hand by hand. So the yoga, the breath work, the meditation, the classes, like people are having these changes of perspective, this like inner insights all over the week. And how Dr. Jeff was saying at the beginning, that this parallel process is happening. It's like everything that happens is there for a reason. And even before, like people come, like they would share, you know, like they were purging, like going to the bathroom, maybe because they were feeling anxious, or, you know, things started happening before even coming into Rythmia. So like all these things, it's just like falling into place. But the same is during the week, like everything, like the program itself is such a very profound thing, that it's not only like going, drinking medicine and that's it. It's like you're having guided things throughout the week. Like the yoga, it's a very specific yoga to, you know, encompass and go hand by hand with the medicine. It's very like gentle, it's very loving, and then like the breath work, like it's this part of like opening up the week on like people coming really nervous and really like they don't know what to expect, maybe with walls up, and like the first breath work, it's like boom, people like crying, already trying to, you know, peel off like the outer layers to go deeper into the medicine. And then the breath work at the end is like, you know, that last strike. Like if you haven't had your miracle, you can definitely have it there, because again, it's like the medicine working with the breath. So yeah, it's not only it can happen anywhen, right? So I think that's a very, very important part of like what is happening during the week and about these miracles. Dr. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about how do we take this 98% of how like we're tracking these numbers?
Yeah, so we track the numbers on the exit survey, and when people leave, they fill out a survey and it says, did you get your miracle? And then the answer for most is yes. And then what we do is we put it into a database and we just crunch numbers, and out of 17,000 people, 98%, 98.6% currently have said, yes, they have gotten this miracle. And so what happens is, let's say, you know, when we first opened, the miracle rate was a lot lower. It was in the 60s. And what we did is we fine-tuned the program over time based on the guest feedback and on our own downloads with the plant medicine experiences ourselves. And we would ask questions and be guided into how we should build and structure the program. So over time, there's been a lot that's changed. So if you came to Rythmia and, you know, when we first opened in 2016, it's very different now. Like totally different. Yeah. And that's because of the guest experience and our own experience with this whole process. So the data is a very key thing, because the Rythmia Way program that you're explaining, that you just explained, Dr. Mariana, which is, you know, all these different modalities, that has all been guided and downloaded to us from these plant medicine sessions in ways to support the process.
Well, something that I think is so special about that program and its relationship to receiving the miracle and experiencing a miracle that so many of us need is that every one of those modalities is known for facilitating miraculous transformative experiences. People can get a miracle in a regular old breathwork session. You really show up for breathwork. You really show up for yoga. You really show up for meditation. You show up for even group therapy or anything. You can have a big transformation.
Cold plunge.
A cold plunge. You get a great massage. You get a great massage. It can be a freaking miracle, right?
Amazing massages.
And so we line up all of these different things in with the medicine. I see all of these things as tools. Each one of them is a tool. And when I go through the program, which I do a couple times a year, when I go through the program, I look at it and I just say, okay, it's my responsibility to get the miracle. I know not everyone feels that way, but I look at it like, you know what, it's my responsibility to surrender to this process, to be completely present through each of those modalities. If you're in yoga, you got to be focused on yoga. You know, if you're in the ceremony, you got to be focused on what we teach you to do in ceremony and how to do that. You know, so it's like each of the modalities themselves help you become super present, which alone lines up the body and the mind connection and the soul connection with the self. But then you line all those things up, you fill it all up in a tight week where we run a tight ship here, to be honest. It's like a well-oiled machine. Nice work. I mean, I didn't do it. I just showed up and I became part of the well-oiled machine. Like, nice work, dude. You know, it's a really well-oiled machine here, every part of the process, you know. And so when you come here, you can actually really surrender into people make all the psychedelic jokes, right? You can dissolve into the universe. You can melt into nothing. You can really deconstruct and surrender into this process, because we will literally, if we have to come to your room and take you and drive you to the next thing, we literally will. And with zero negative energy too.
Yeah.
It's like, we expect that you're going to surrender to this process and we're going to take care of you. And that next thing we take you to could literally be where you get your next miracle.
The reason why it's a well-oiled, tight machine is 2 reasons. First of all, Jerry is very detail-oriented. Number 1 reason. That's the main thing. The other reason is because in my background in managing healthcare facilities for 30 years, rehabs, hospitals, clinics, different places, I learned that the patients that I was dealing with, it's a life or death situation. It's very urgent. This is not light, sort of whatever happens is fine vibe. This is very serious life things that we're dealing with and the clients are dealing with. So we need to create a system that is safe, that is well operating, and that doesn't have room for error, but just allows the patient or the person, the guest, to be able to maximize their experience by feeling comfortable in the routine that happens here. And so everybody that works here takes this very seriously, including myself, because if some people don't get this and don't get their miracle, the outlook for them is not good for situations people are in, some of them. And we're very serious about like what this means for people. And we do follow-up aftercare therapy sessions. Ben does, and I do, and some other people here do. And I had a session yesterday with a guy in Australia, and what he said was, Rythmia changed my life. He's a CEO of a big company that went through COVID and had a lot of difficulties, like a lot of companies did. But he was able to have a shift in perspective, to look at his shareholders differently, look at his employees differently, look at himself differently. His marriage improved, his family life improved. He's happier, and he's actually more successful now. So there's a lot of things going on, and oftentimes people will think about plant medicine or going to participate in something, and that's just not for me. I'm not this hippie woo-woo person. It's like, trust me, that's not what's going on here. Okay, that's not. There's a loving, grounded, very hippie vibe in certain components, but this is a place where, just watch some of Jerry's videos or mine. In Ben's, we're not some like, I don't know what the word is, but it's very serious. Yeah, it's very authentic, and it's very professional. So sometimes when we think about the hippie dippy vibes, and which I love, and that is part of my universe, and I'm from Venice Beach, and I ran for president of Venice Beach, and I had a spiritual center in Venice Beach. I'm into it. Okay, I will do your astrological chart. I'm coming out with an oracle deck. I'm into it. Okay, so like, yeah, exactly. I've got my oracle deck here. Soon to be released by Ben Decker. Yeah, exactly. And it'll be here the week that I'm the guest speaker, September 22nd. You can get one. But I'm saying all that because I'm into all of that kind of stuff. I'm into the hippie dippy thing. I don't say any of this with any disrespect toward what that stuff is really about. But when we're dealing with Navy SEAL veterans with tons of trauma, they might not resonate with that stuff. Right? Exactly. This is practical. Maybe they should, but they just might not. Plenty people come here who love all of that. And everything here is compatible and holds a lot of space for that. And everyone feels really welcome if they're in there, like cut velvet flowing around, lots of crystals. Trust me, we got it. Okay, we're in it. We have that new age energy for sure. But this isn't like a barefoot retreat somewhere. This is a medical facility. That's right. And it's a luxury resort. Yes. And we do happen to have some of the modalities that like the hippie movement are known for, those modalities, but they're all high quality, real modalities that really, really work. And our professionals that lead them do it with such a high level of integrity. And we're so on it. We keep it so tight. And that's why the Navy SEAL vets will get the miracle. That's because this is a place where anybody can come and get your miracle and get that healing that you deserve. And there's something for everybody here. We had a woman, it was 96, come here, and she extended 2 extra weeks. She loved it. And we've had 18-year-old is the oldest we can take. So you have to be an adult. And the youngest we can take is 18 years old. and we have 18, 19, 20-year-olds. We have two 20-year-olds here this week, and they do awesome. They do awesome. And think about it. If you're getting your miracle at that age, the sky's the limit for your life coming up. You know, you're never too young in the 18 zone. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And at the end also, like Ben, you were talking about, like, you know, like we're all for hippies, we're all for everyone coming here. But you were talking about your Oracle deck and all of this. Just before we head into, we're going to open the space for the Q&A question, the section. So if you have any questions, you can start sending them in. And we have like 2 minutes so that you can, Ben, tell us a little bit if you're gonna be tuning into this, you know, topic when you're here on the 22nd of September, or like what are you gonna be teaching when you're here as a guest speaker?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, especially after being here on site for over a year. And being so hands-on. I'm so excited about this particular guest speaker week. I've been a guest speaker a whole bunch of times at Rythmia. I started out leading retreats like this before I moved here a year ago and was able to, you know, have this role, which I'm so grateful for and I love.
You're doing great at, by the way.
Thank you. And having so much fun, learning so much, you know. And so I'm very excited now, after more experience with Rythmia, more experience with the team, more experience with the medicine, to be able to lead what I believe will be my best retreat that I've done yet. Because now I understand the Rythmia program in a whole new way. I know it front and back, right? I could teach a webinar on it.
Yes, you could.
You know, and so I just feel that my number one priority with that retreat, my priority is always to be hands-on with the guests. I'm very hands-on. I do one-on-ones. I teach a bunch of the classes. I'm here. I'm very involved. But that week, I'm going to be teaching some extra classes, and I just want to go deeper into the process with each guest. I'm just going to make myself that much more available. I got a lot of friends and special guests coming that week too, which is always a fun little addition to it. And we will have the Oracle deck. And what's cool about the Oracle deck is it's modern mythology, and it's all about looking at yourself as the central character of your modern myth. A lot of times we talk about the different religions or traditions we were raised in here, because we talk about miracles a lot, which are connected to spirituality, you know, for a lot of people. And every culture, every religion has miracles, something kind of cool. And so in my religion that I was raised in, one of the songs that we sang, that I was taught, is "I am a child of God." And of course, Jesus was also a child of God. And this idea that I was just like Jesus, or I could grow up to be like Jesus or something, was this very important message that was taught to me when I was a really little kid. And I think it helped a lot when I saw myself from a cosmic perspective and a spiritual perspective in that way. And that's the key that we're going to be talking about that week, with letting the medicine be an initiation into that perspective shift, and seeing ourselves in the center of our own divine journey, our own epic myth.
Lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find the way.
Yes,
that's part of that song.
That's that song. Those are the words.
Thank you for that, Ben. And
I want to say something about Ben's class real quick, is that throughout the year, we have guest speakers, and they don't work at Rythmia. They're just people from out in the world. And one of them is Michael Beckwith from Agape Spiritual Center, who's part of our company. He's been great. We've had a lot of other different ones come, Jack Canfield, a ton of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben, the uniqueness of Ben, having him teach, is because he is so involved, and he's a staff member here, and he knows exactly what's going on. So his classes that he'll be guest speaking on will be so deep and so incredible, because it will be seamless between our program and what he's going to teach. So it's going to be a really great opportunity for you to get your miracle and go really deep and have some expert advice coming while you're here this week. I would highly recommend coming during his week.
It'd be super fun too. Are you going to be here?
Yes.
Nice. It's also the week of fall equinox.
Cool.
So if you're not already connected to nature, it's a great time to be connected to nature. In the shamanic traditions, we always do something special for solstice and equinox. So there will be that little added extra something cool that week.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thank you, Ben, for explaining. Now we're going to bring some questions from people that have been tuning into our Q&A. So we have a question over here. How long does the miracle usually last?
Great question.
Forever.
Forever is right. So it's the way that, again, I know this is a common sort of thought, like, hey, well, I went through the program, I drank ayahuasca, I sat with ayahuasca, I had this miracle cool. Now, does it stay? Does it stick? There's a couple different answers to this. Number one, yes, it does, because it's yours and it's real and you did the work to achieve it. So yes, but sometimes the question is also asking, right? Like, will I feel less anxious or less depressed if that was my goal for forever? Or do I need to keep doing this to kind of stay in line? 92% of our guests report 6 months later that their life has dramatically improved for the better, 6 months after being at Rythmia, because we collect data 6 months out. And then 85% of our guests that reported having depression before coming to Rythmia no longer have any depression symptoms, or their symptoms are dramatically reduced. So what does that mean? It means that if you get your miracle and you have this breakthrough and you have this clarity and this awareness and this shift of perspective, if you employ the tools that you have at your disposal, that you learn here, or that you've had prior to Rythmia, if you stay in a connected, very in touch mode with yourself, there's no reason that it would fade or go away. You can stay in this zone. I've had a shift when I drank plant medicine for the first time 12 years ago or so, about 12, and I'm still in the zone. I'm still in that zone from then, and it hasn't faded or gone away. My miracle, I still have it with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Something Jerry says in response to that question is, you can't undo it, you can only re-screw it. So funny. So Jerry, such a dad joke. So something that I want to say is, coming to ayahuasca, the more prepared you can be, the better. Sure. Yes. But a good ayahuasca ceremony really, more than anything, depends on good integration. I believe there's preparation, integration, set and setting. And so we take care of set and setting. You do as much preparation as you can before you come to us. And then we send you off with a 13-week free integration program. And so that integration program is designed by this guy here. Nice work.
Rythmia Life, we call it.
Yeah, the Rythmia Life app, which is a free app that's for alumni only. So you'll receive a special code after you leave to go on this free app with a free 13-week integration program with lots of different tools, a whole library of meditation, yoga, breath work, all the music from all of the ceremonies. You can book one-on-one private coaching sessions with us. You can attend a free group therapy session each week. There's tons of resources on there, and that's how we keep you. Those are the resources we provide you so that you can keep yourself connected to your miracle.
And on that note, it's very, we have some questions about returning guests that I think it's very important, because some people come back. So people are asking like what to expect, or how can they be, on the second or third time when they're returning.
Can I want to say one more thing.
Please do.
So there's a study, back to the first question. Sorry, Mariana, I'm going to address that question. The first question about the permanence of the miracle. There's a study on psychedelics that if someone has a mystical experience on psychedelics, they will have a permanent personality change.
Correct.
And it's always considered better. It's always considered to be like a natural evolution or an improvement of that person. So if you have a mystical experience, which that's like the miracle, which is a very common thing to have on ayahuasca. So if you haven't had that in your own life through whatever your existing modalities are, that means nothing. You can absolutely have no spiritual background or no spiritual practice, no connection to any of that, and still have a mystical experience on the medicine here. But when you do that personality change, to use the scientific terms that are used in the study, is permanent. So there is also scientific backing to say that what changes is a permanent change.
Yes.
Yeah, or can be a permanent change.
And regarding the next question about what was it?
Returning guests.
Returning guests. So I teach a class for the alumni called The Nine, and it's Monday morning before the About Your Miracle class for all the guests. And it's a 25-minute class, and it gives 9 new intentions for the returning alumni. So the first 3 intentions, everyone works on their first time. And then the second time they come back, or if they come back more than 2 times, they work on these other 9 intentions. And they're help you go deeper. They help you do past life resolution, epigenetic components, forgiveness, and all kinds of amazing things, like not letting people's personal attacks on you affect you, and how to not be judgmental, and all these different cool things. And so the alumni that come back, and sometimes they have like a little mini reunion. Some people will, like, you come here your first time, you meet a bunch of really cool people, and then everybody becomes friends, and then they want to come back as a group down the road. And sometimes they come once a year. So we see that a lot. And I'm teaching them these 9 new things, and they're going deep, and they're actually they do very well.
Right.
We have a woman who's here for her 3rd time, and she says she finally healed a lot of her brain tumor issues that she was suffering from. She reports this, and that she's finally got past all the trauma from her brain condition. So sometimes, people do come back, and we have a program specifically for them.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the specific intentions just for them, and something else. And you also mentioned community, tribe, family, friendship, maintaining the vibe. We have a returning guest this week, such a sweet guy, and his whole energy is different. He's better than he's ever been. He seems better than he's ever seemed. And I was talking to him about why he came back, and he said, well, the first time I came, I got off of heroin and crack and cocaine and meth. And
wow.
but I still sometimes drink. And so not everyone's in that extreme of a situation, but he came back. He's like, I'm hoping to get rid of the drinking now. It's really, really cool. And the process of self-discovery is endless. You're not a being that can one day be a perfect Barbie, and then you're perfect and everything's perfect. You're an evolving, living, spiritual being. And so the path of self-discovery that the process here, and all of these practices, really not just the medicine, but meditation and mindfulness takes you on a path of self-discovery, as does yoga, as does breath work, as do just therapy, really, and coaching.
Yeah.
And so all of the modalities that come here are all about your path of self-discovery. So many people like to come once a year, even after they've experienced the 9 intentions, the first 3 intentions got their miracle, and come back and did the 9 intentions. They just want to keep coming back because the path is never ending for self-discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are running out of time, but we'll do one more question before we close, that I think also a lot of people that come have this. So people that have experienced the miracle. There's one that says, I feel I have experienced a miracle, but can't seem to stay connected to myself. How do you keep the connection after it happens?
Okay, good question. So in my Thursday class, which was today, I teach that you have to have a daily practice, whatever that is, and it's personal based on you. It could be exercise, meditation, yoga, sound healing, breath work, taking the dog for a walk, sitting in silence, whatever. You have to do something for yourself every single day, even if it's 5 minutes. You got to connect. You have to eat healthy and treat your body well. Avoid drugs and alcohol. And then alcohol, because some people drink alcohol, that's fine. Just not in excess. And having a community, like Ben mentioned, a tribe, a group, a community, a social thing, that's important. And to also be sure that you are using the tools you learned here, because the Rythmia Way, aside from ayahuasca, has all these different things that we teach you. And there's a way to continue doing those things. And I like to say for people, it's important when it's healthy communication with others, because if you're not on the same page with your spouse or your friends or your partners or whoever, then you feel alone and isolated. So you have to have a communication that's really, really clear and healthy. And that's why sometimes people come with their significant other or their family members, and they don't always come together. They might come separated, one week and the other next month. But it's important that everybody gets on the same vibe. So I think that's for me, that's the way I stay connected. Like I have to do my daily practice. Every day I exercise every single day, and I do it mindfully. I'm not just exercising randomly. I do it with intention and with a purpose. So I'm going to run on my treadmill or whatever. I'm thinking, okay, I got to get rid of this worry that I have about this certain patient's lifestyle and things that they're struggling with that I just listened to. That's going to have to get off of me right now. So I have an intention. And so that's an important part, is being mindful about, what you're working on as you go post Rythmia.
Yeah. Thank you. And also just being aware of that, you have been through a very intense process, and that, like everything is moving, and that, everything is going to start like settling down. So if you're still feeling whatever you're feeling, it's okay as well. Like everyone has such different integration process. So just honoring where you are in that process of integration, the same as we're here.
Right? There's an adjustment period. Like you've been carrying around a backpack full of rocks for the last 50 years, and all of a sudden it's gone. So you're a little unbalanced. You have to build those new muscles of balance in your life. So you have to be easy on yourself a bit, as you adjust.
Yeah. When we talk about integration, we talk about it every day. So every day you're integrating from the ceremony the night before and all of that. But every day we're talking about your next couple weeks when you go home. Every single day we're starting to plant those seeds. We're keeping you very, very present, but we're addressing that many people describe having a rebirth, right?
Yeah.
Having a total rebirth. People are saying like, oh my gosh, I felt like I completely died and I'm reborn. I'm a completely new person. I'm a better, completely new evolved version of myself. We hear it all the time. And so as we're talking about that, and people to your left and right, and then you have your rebirth and it's happening all over the place, there's an energy all week, the entire time, of us talking about how we're going to integrate. And so there's an energy all week here and there of people talking about how some people stay an extra week at Rythmia to integrate and only do the tincture and ceremonies. Some people stay at an Airbnb nearby and go into nature and spend more time journaling and writing out all of those things. And that's all good. That's all really good to take a couple of days extra, that kind of thing. But the biggest thing really is those things that you just said. Yeah. A small daily practice. I'm a meditation teacher. I've done a ton of silent retreats. I've written books on meditation. It's a whole part of my reality. And I always say 5 minutes a day of meditation is more beneficial than an annual 10-day silent retreat. 5 minutes a day will actually make a bigger difference in your life than any of these big elaborate things.
That's good to know.
And that's something that you also take into, the rest of your life, because it's part of it. It's part of just being in doing this work. So yeah, thank you so much for answering those questions, for being here. We apologize for going a little late on our webinar. So thank you for staying with us this couple extra minutes. And just before we leave, we want to let you know that we're offering a special discount bundle for the people that have been listening to this webinar. So if you purchase in full a week before the year ends, you can get a $750 discount on your week here at Rythmia with the Miracle 750. So if you need any more information, you can contact us, or we can send you all this info so that you can book if you want to come to Ben's week. It's on the 22nd of September. And if you want to come any other week, just if you pay it in full before the year ends, then you can get this special discount. So again, thank you all for being here, for listening to us. We hope to see you here soon in Costa Rica. And thank you, Dr. Jeff. Thank you, Ben, for being here with us. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Mariana. Thanks, everybody.
Pura vida.
Pura vida. See you at Rythmia.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.